Welcome to Tech Talks. Our admin edition today is focused on the Migration Assessment app for migrating from Splunk on-premises to Splunk Cloud. Tech Talks is a series of short webinars that are deep dives for technical practitioners. We value you, our customer, and want you to continue on your Splunk journey. Our experts help create these best practices, and we want you to leverage them in your daily role. I'm Renita Datta, a product marketing manager for the Splunk platform, focused on our cloud offering, and I'm excited to share with you information about how to use the Migration Assessment app. I'll introduce my colleague, Jim Don.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jim Don. I've been with Splunk for about 8 years now, but more importantly, I was a Splunk customer for 5 years before that, and I work as a principal Splunk Cloud architect.
Thank you, Jim, and you'll hear more from Jim soon. Today, we're going to talk about how businesses around the world are accelerating their cloud transformations and the benefits of the Splunk Cloud SaaS service, background on the Cloud Migration Assessment app, how to get started, and how to interpret the app results. Then Jim will walk through a demo of the app. Finally, we will cover some additional resources available. Our team will be available for Q&A throughout over the Q&A feature. And if you watch a recorded version of this webinar, please continue the conversation through the Splunk community website for any follow-up questions. Changing customer needs necessitate rapid innovation and new business models. You can see from some of these quotes that digital transformation has become an imperative today rather than an option. Let's double-click on that and see why cloud acceleration is paramount for business leaders. With the pandemic, businesses now have to support remote work for employees, ensure business continuity, and a consistent customer experience amid all the volatility. Invest in direct-to-consumer digital models, and make do with little capital investments due to cost pressures. To succeed in this changing paradigm, you need a data platform like Splunk to provide you end-to-end monitoring visibility and a robust security posture. And how awesome would it be if you could enjoy all the benefits of Splunk in an out-of-the-box service consumption model? Splunk Cloud delivers the benefits of Splunk Enterprise, the easiest way to aggregate, analyze, and get answers from your data, deployed and managed securely, reliably, and scalably as a service. Aside from all the product benefits, you receive additional benefits from our service offering. Splunk Cloud customers will go live fast in a matter of days, not weeks or months. In addition, customers can expand their deployments quickly. Multiple terabytes of incremental Splunk capacity can be available within 48 hours, as opposed to a need for a customer to re-architect and rebuild over a period of months when running Splunk themselves. This means a customer can not only land faster with Splunk Cloud, but continue to adopt and expand faster too. With Splunk Cloud, we take on the responsibility of all updates and upgrades for you as you receive brand new features and enhancements every 6 weeks. Splunk Cloud is flexible. It is architected to facilitate sudden or unexpected bursts in data volume. Ideal for a world when you don't know if tomorrow could bring a cyber attack or a new firewall being turned on erroneously, or even on occasions such as a peak weekend sales for a retailer. With Splunk Cloud, you are getting a best-in-class deployment out of the box, and we also support your compliance needs. To replicate this on-premise or your own environment would require significant expertise, time, and overall cost to not only deploy, but to monitor, maintain, and upgrade. All organizations, regardless of size, are asked to perform and deliver results with limited resources. With Splunk Cloud, you can repurpose your resources so that they no longer need to do administrative backend tasks and can now work on using Splunk to solve use cases. At the end of the day, people buy Splunk to analyze their data and answer difficult questions, while administering enterprise software has always been a necessary evil. Splunk Cloud eliminates that burden by taking care of 75% of the infrastructure management and admin tasks, so you can transition from dealing with the backend plumbing to focusing on higher value activities. Additionally, when reviewing total cost of ownership, Splunk Cloud provides lower TCO over on-premises or customer-managed deployments. Now I'll hand over to Jim to talk about a migration assessment tab that can help you determine if you are ready to migrate to Splunk Cloud.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for considering the Splunk Cloud Migration Assessment app for Splunk. This application was primarily developed to help BYOL, or on-premises customers, determine if they're ready for a Splunk Cloud migration. This application will automatically assess and analyze their environment and see if they're a fit. Automated guidance will be given to you along the way as you use the application. To get started with the application, simply go to Splunk Base and download it. When on Splunk Base, just look for the keyword migration. It'll be the first application that you'll see in the dropdown. You'll want to install the application on your monitoring console, just like you would any other app. No restart will be required, and along the way, we will not collect any PII or sensitive information from your environment. Now let's jump into a live demo of the app and walk through what it looks like.
First, let's start off by seeing how easy it is to obtain the app. Simply go to Splunk Base, type in the word migration, and as promised, it's the first one in the list. Now we simply download the app and install it on the monitoring console. After you've installed the app, simply click on it to launch it like any other Splunk application. The first screen that you're brought to here is the Instructions tab. You'll notice that this Instructions dashboard is actually the first of 4 dashboards that you're going to walk through while using this app. This number is going to change as the app evolves, but this is what we're at today. The first tab is the Instructions tab, and this is going to give you information about how to use the application. Be sure to read all of the dashboard panels here so that you understand exactly what's going on. This first portion of the Instructions dashboard shows us a pre-flight check. This pre-flight check is evaluating to ensure that we have access to all the data sources that we're expecting. If you see anything red over in here, be sure to investigate it and resolve the issue before moving on. With my particular instance, I know that I'm not going to see this data, so I'm going to move on anyway. You'll also want to pay close attention to the number of instances that are identified. Here I'm on a single instance machine, so I only see one machine down here. In a larger environment, you'd expect to see all of your indexers and search heads and other supporting Splunk servers that are configured in your monitoring console to show up here. Next, we have an optional update where if you click this button, it's going to refresh the data that we have about the applications that are hosted on Splunk Base. We do ship with default data, and it's fairly current. So if you don't have access to the internet, you don't have to hit this button. In fact, you don't have to hit this button if you don't want to spend the extra time waiting for this to finish before moving forward, because it takes about 5 minutes to grab all of that data and refresh it. The application comes with this information shipped, and again, it's relatively current. So the first real configuration step that you have here is giving yourself a customer name. This could be anything that you would like. I like to use Happy Customer. But if you have more than one Splunk environment or different Splunk islands where you have separate instances of Splunk that don't see each other, give them unique names so that later on we can differentiate between the two of them or more, and then we can evaluate them all at once. If you use the same name for everything, we're not going to be able to see that. And here, by default, you're going to see zeros across the board. Just simply pick what you have in your environment today. I'll just randomly select some things here. This is what you have today, not what you're looking to use in the future, so be sure to put in where you are for your current state. Next, we're going to select any of the compliance requirements that we have, or any particular cloud provider that we would prefer. Here, I could choose PCI. You'll notice that encryption at rest is included with that, and I could choose AWS over GCP. Then next, we're going to move on to the migration checks. To run the migration checks, simply click on the button. You'll notice it opens up a new tab and gives you a pop-up window, which tells you to select very particular check categories. So we click OK here, and we select the categories that were recommended above. The cloud migration assessment checks focus specifically on seeing if you are a fit for a Splunk Cloud migration, and the Splunk Cloud PS assessment checks are more involved PS checks that will look deeper into your environment to give us a better idea of what a PS engagement would look like if you want to move forward with the migration. You'll notice that I click Start over here in the upper right-hand corner, and the checks are now running in a serial fashion. One of the main reasons why we chose this framework is because we're running these searches serially. That means that we're only adding one search to your environment at a time, so it has very little impact on the health of your environment. We're also built it this way because the categories will change in the future as well. More categories will pop up, and when we do that, we'll update the pop-up menu. So look for those to happen. As these are running, you can select any one of these checks, and on the right-hand side, you'll see the results. If you hit the Expand button here, it will show the results in an easier to read fashion. You can also open them in search if you want to troubleshoot anything, if you find something in your environment that you weren't expecting. See here that the checks are almost complete. And again, we can pick any ones that we want. After the checks have completed, we get a pop-up menu that will refocus this window to the front. You click OK, and you see the big green button that will take you to the next step, which will be the findings. We simply click on the findings to take us to the next dashboard. You'll notice that we're opening another window in a new tab, and here we have our findings. At the top, we have a summary of all the information that we manually entered in the beginning on the first Instructions tab. We'll also notice that we have a visualization of what our license utilization looks like over the last 30 days. Here you can see I'm on my laptop. I really don't index any new data. This will look much different in your environment. But it'll also give you an idea about how much of your license you're using and whether or not you need to expand that capacity in the future. The next window here you see is a license model recommendation. We have two different license models with Splunk Cloud. One of them is ingest-based recommendations, or ingest-based licensing rather. And this is what everyone's probably familiar with. It's a classical way of charging for Splunk where the data volume that you bring in is how you're charged. We have a newer model called workload-based pricing, and we use this for any customer who's 2 terabytes or above. Well, at least we highly recommend it. You can certainly always choose ingest-based pricing if you'd like. With workload-based pricing, here you throw away the ingest limitations and you get to balance out your search and indexing capacities. So you'll notice over here we have a matrix that shows different capacities of indexing and then different profiles of search. This matrix will give you a good idea about where you're going to land if you want to go forward with workload-based pricing. And if you need to, you can work with your sales team to really pinpoint what a direct migration would look like. This gives you room to grow, so sometimes these numbers are higher than what you may end at after working with your account team. Down here, we're going to see the results of all the checks that we ran in an event browser. You can filter through this event browser if you want to drill in on any of them. You can also see the results here as you expand them. After you reviewed your results, you can then export this information. Now, you don't always have to export the information to Splunk, but sometimes it's very helpful to do so. Today, what we ask you to do if you're sharing the data with us, first you have to agree to the terms, click Export, and after this data is downloaded, you would open up a P4 ticket and then share that information to Splunk that way by attaching this data to that P4 ticket. We have upgrades happening right now where we're going to change the way that experience works. So pay close attention to the instructions inside of here because they will change. The whole customer portal will have a new option of uploading this data into Splunk. After you have this information uploaded into a ticket, simply share that with your Splunk account team, and they'll be able to review this information offline. Next, let's look at the PS checks. The professional services scoping is optional and is something that you would want to step through with a professional services consultant. However, if you want to play around with it on your own, you're absolutely free to do that as well. To get there, we simply click on the link at the top of the dashboard, and it'll take us there. Here you'll notice at the top that we have a similar export feature. We're going to come back to this in a moment. Below that, we can change these values to reflect what we'd like to do within our professional services engagement. So we could tell them that yes, we do want to do a data migration, and then we can select any additional services that we may see fit for this particular engagement. We can then provide a target completion date. Let's say we wanted to get this done rather quickly. And then down below here, you'll notice that we have topology options. So we can define what our topology looks like today, and this will help us understand what the professional services engagement would look like if we were to move forward. Down below here, you can see that we have a summary of the data that we've inputted again. And then below this, we have another version of the same events console if we wanted to troubleshoot any of the events that happened during the checks. It works identically to the one that we saw in the dashboard before. Now, if we go back up to the top and we agree to the export, this data export details is the same as in the dashboard before, but you notice here we have an additional export option. This document export is a very neat feature, and what it does is it creates a Word document that will summarize everything that we have inside of this application or that we've collected. You'll need to click yes here to move forward. And now you can see here that I have a report of all of the findings. This makes it easy to share this information with folks that aren't Splunk savvy or don't have access to Splunk to see these dashboards on their own. As we go through here, you can see that these are just exports of the data that we've collected. Okay. Now let's move on and see what it looks like if we were to analyze this data offline. To review this data offline, we have another dashboard that's built out for that. And that's called our internal review dashboard under the tools menu. When we click on this dashboard, we're going to see that we have a menu system at the top, which won't have anything selected because we haven't added data yet. And then also below that, we have instructions on how to bring the data in. We simply follow these instructions, and then we'll be able to analyze data inside of Splunk. We have additional, more explicit directions inside of the Directions button, so you can click on that and review it. So to add more data, we'll just follow along here. We go to Settings, Add Data. We're going to do a one-shot upload. We simply need to select the file that we exported, which in this case is a zip file. Click Next. Now, the most important part of this process is to ensure that we're picking the SCMA index. If you do not have one created because it's your first time through, simply create the index with this link right here and then select it and move forward. And now we can click through all the way to the end. We don't have to worry about setting source types or anything like that. The application automatically handles it. And then we click Start Searching. We can see that we have data that's been imported. This is good. And now we can go back to the internal review dashboard. Now that we're here, we can see that we have a customer listed under the customer selection. If you had more than one export, you would see more than one customer listed there, and you can select more than one because it's a multi-select tool. If you do that, you'll notice down here that your search counts and each one of the additional dashboards here, each one of the panels will summarize all of the data. So it'll combine the data from all of the exports that you've selected and show you what it would look like if you were to merge onto a single stack from your on-premises infrastructure. The dashboards that we're looking at here, these panels, are identical to what you saw at the end of the export. The only difference being is that we're only looking at the summarized data that we've pulled back. Each one of these dashboard panels is going to give us information about this aspect of your environment. So licensing, search, apps, etc. Search is probably the most important one. Here we're going to see where long-running searches are. Expect to see something here. You're also going to see your search periodicity and range, as well as skip searches. So these are some of the more important dashboards that when you have a full environment, you'll see a lot of data inside of. You can, again, click on the details button here, and it will show you more information about each one of these dashboard panels. So if you need some more explanation about what any of them are doing or why they were built, you'll see it there. So go ahead and click through each one of these dashboard panels, and you can see what we see on the back end while we're analyzing your stack to ensure that you're a fit for Splunk Cloud. Thank you for joining this training, and happy Splunking. Right now I'd like to go back and take one more look at the findings in the data that we're exporting so that there's a clear understanding of the data that we're bringing into Splunk. When we're down here at this data export panel, you'll notice that we have other dashboard panels linked. Here, if we click on this, we're going to see an example of what the data is that we are collecting and sending off to Splunk. Here you'll see that it's all been either obfuscated or removed, anything that's considered PII. So usernames, host names, IP addresses, things like that. And if you wanted to see all of the data, you can click on this dashboard. We only load a sample by default because in larger environments, that dashboard can take a while to load. So here you're going to see all of the findings inside of Splunk. This format of the file is JSON, so this makes it a little easier for you to read. But if you wanted to, you could certainly look inside of the data export, expand it, and look at each one of the individual files and see what data is inside of there. Again, just to summarize, we did spend a lot of time making sure that we're not collecting anything that's considered PII and that's just summary data, so that it would make it easier for customers to share information with us. This information is used to evaluate checks against our sweet spot documentation, which is internal, that tells us where we're comfortable as far as sizing of customers go, where we're comfortable bringing them on board, as well as items that you'll find inside of the Splunk Cloud Service definition, which is a public-facing document which defines any types of limits that we might impose inside of Splunk Cloud. These limits are there to ensure that your experience with Splunk Cloud is a good one. So we want to make sure that you're...
Great. Thank you so much, Jim, for that demo. We're about ready to wrap up this tech talk, but before we do, I wanted to share some resources available to you to continue your journey. You will receive these assets in a follow-up email as well as in the recording. We have a link to the app itself, followed by a Migrating to Splunk Cloud Tech Brief, which has a wealth of information and resource links. As the name suggests, the Splunk Cloud Service definition contains a detailed documentation of what is offered and what to expect from the Splunk Cloud Service. We also have referred to 2 sessions from Conf 20 where our customers talk about their move to Splunk Cloud. Finally, if you have any feedback on the app or Splunk Cloud, please use this email alias or visit ideas.splunk.com. Also, don't forget that we have an incredible community of Splunk users on our community site. You can search the answers section on migration, and you can continue the conversation for this talk within the discussion section called Tech Talks. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedules to join us today. Please tune back in for future Tech Talks. We are excited to share the series with you.